Welcome back to Who Died Today USA channel. In the past few days, we have received somber news about the passing of extraordinary talents. Today's episode is dedicated to honoring their memory. Additionally, we will recap the stars we have recently lost. Before we begin, we kindly ask for your support. If this video or the legacies of these remarkable individuals have touched your life, please consider giving this video a thumbs up as a sign of respect and remembrance. Thank you.
1.
Tom Troupe, whose enduring presence across Broadway, film, and television defined him as a versatile and respected figure in American performing arts, has died at the age of 97. Troupe's career began in earnest after his move to New York City in 1948, where he was awarded a prestigious scholarship to study under legendary acting teacher Uta Hagen at the Herbert Berghof studio. His Broadway debut came in 1957, portraying Peter Van Daan in The Diary of Anne Frank, a performance that signaled his arrival on the national stage. In 1958, Troupe transitioned to Los Angeles, where he swiftly built a reputation as a reliable character actor. Over the following 4 decades, he amassed more than 75 screen credits, including appearances in Star Trek, Mission, Impossible, Cagney and Lacey, The Fugitive, Cheers, and Murder, She Wrote. His film roles included parts in The Devil's Brigade, Kelly's Heroes, Summer School, and Gus Van Sant's My Own Private Idaho, the latter aligning him with a new generation of independent cinema. On stage, Troupe demonstrated a remarkable range. He earned critical acclaim for his performances in national tours and Broadway productions, such as romantic comedy, opposite Mia Farrow, and Same Time Next Year, alongside Barbara Rush. His solo play, The Diary of a Madman, which he co-wrote and starred in, showcased his dedication to both the written word and the dramatic form. Notably, Troupe frequently shared the stage with his wife, actress Carol Cook, in celebrated productions like The Gin Game and The Lion in Winter. Their artistic partnership was praised not only for its chemistry, but also for its longevity and consistency. Throughout his prolific career, Troupe was recognized for his disciplined artistry, adaptability, and commitment to ensemble performance. His contributions left a lasting impact on both the stage and screen communities, earning him quiet reverence among peers and audiences alike.
2.
Alan Bergman, one of America's most enduring songwriters, whose words gave life to cinematic classics and television anthems across generations, passed away on July 17, 2025, at his home in Los Angeles. He was 99. A family spokesperson confirmed that he died peacefully, with his daughter Julie by his side after recent struggles with respiratory illness. For over 6 decades, Alan Bergman, alongside his wife and creative partner Marilyn Bergman, penned lyrics that became inseparable from the American songbook. From The Way We Were to The Windmills of Your Mind, their collaborations with composers like Michel Legrand and Marvin Hamlisch won them 3 Academy Awards, 4 Emmys, and 2 Grammys. Barbra Streisand, a close friend and frequent collaborator, wrote, "At 99, his creative gifts still flowed. I like to think he's again in Marilyn's warm embrace. I will miss them both." Born in Brooklyn in 1925, Bergman was drawn to music from an early age, finding comfort in the radio and clarity at the piano. He studied music formally at UCLA and, under the mentorship of Johnny Mercer, was encouraged to pursue lyrics as vocation. It was in 1956 that fate brought him to Marilyn. They wrote a song the very day they met. "It was a terrible song," Alan once joked, "but we fell in love with the process." Even after Marilyn's passing in 2022, Bergman kept writing, alone, but never without her. His final work, Wherever I May Go, for Marilyn, was not just a tribute, but a gentle farewell. "We always wrote facing each other, Gyao," he once said. "Now, I toss ideas in my head. Luckily, they still come." Alan Bergman leaves behind a daughter, a granddaughter, and a catalog of lyrics that gave words to what so many hearts have felt.
Three.
Bobby Sherman, the pop sensation turned television star whose charm and shaggy hair made him a heartthrob of the late 1960s and early 70s, passed away on Tuesday at the age of 81 after a battle with stage 4 cancer, his family confirmed. A beloved figure on the covers of Tiger Beat and a staple on shows like Here Come the Brides, Sherman captivated a generation of fans with his golden voice and gentle charisma. But his legacy stretched far beyond fan mail and gold records. In later years, he walked away from celebrity to embrace a different kind of spotlight, that of public service. At the height of his fame, Sherman had 4 top 10 hits, including Little Woman and Julie, Do You Love Me? His face adorned lunchboxes, bedroom posters, and record stores, embodying a youthful ideal amid a rapidly changing America. Yet behind the fame was a man deeply grounded in values instilled from childhood: discipline, compassion, and quiet strength. In his personal reflections, Sherman often spoke of the exhaustion behind his whirlwind fame. "It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears," he once said, "but it was the best of times." That honesty defined his career shift. In the 1980s, driven by a desire to help others, he trained as an emergency medical technician and later taught CPR at the LAPD Academy. "Helping people gave me something I never got from applause," he shared in a rare interview. He is survived by his wife, Brigitte, 2 sons, and 6 grandchildren. In her tribute, Brigitte wrote, "He lived with integrity, gave without hesitation, and loved with his whole heart." Sherman's story was one of evolution, from idol to healer, from stage lights to real-life service. In both roles, he touched lives, and that, more than the screaming crowds, is the legacy he leaves behind.
Four.
Julian McMahon, who rose from Australian television heartthrob to global screen icon, leaves behind a legacy of rich and varied work that defined genres and captivated audiences worldwide. From supernatural drama to psychological thrillers, McMahon's ability to balance charisma with emotional complexity made him a standout performer in every project he touched. Born in Sydney in 1968, McMahon began his screen journey on Australian soap operas, first on The Power, The Passion, and then Home and Away, where his good looks and magnetic presence quickly drew public attention. His breakout came in the United States with the daytime drama Another World, paving the way for a lasting Hollywood career. He gained global recognition through his portrayal of Cole Turner, a demon-turned-romantic lead, in the beloved WB series Charmed. McMahon's performance from 2000 to 2005 was praised for adding depth and pathos to a complex character, helping to make the show a cultural touchstone for fantasy television in the early 2000s. His most critically acclaimed role came with FX's Nip Tuck, 2003 to 2010, where he starred as Dr. Christian Troy. McMahon's portrayal of the confident, morally ambiguous plastic surgeon earned him a Golden Globe nomination and established the series as a pioneer in bold, character-driven storytelling. Nip Tuck pushed boundaries in television and showcased McMahon's capacity to humanize flawed characters. In film, McMahon secured his place in pop culture history as the iconic Marvel villain Dr. Victor Von Doom in Fantastic Four, 2005, and its 2007 sequel. He also demonstrated his dramatic range in features like Premonition, Red, and Paranoia, working alongside Sandra Bullock, Bruce Willis, and Gary Oldman, respectively. In recent years, he returned to prominence as Jess LaCroix, team leader in CBS's FBI Most Wanted, 2020 to 2022. The role reaffirmed his status as a leading man in procedural drama, and his exit from the show was met with an outpouring of respect from fans and colleagues alike. His final project, The Residence on Netflix, saw McMahon playing the Prime Minister of Australia, a poignant nod to his real-life heritage as the son of former Australian Prime Minister Billy McMahon. Julian McMahon's professional journey is marked by fearless choices, artistic growth, and performances that left lasting impressions across screens, big and small. His legacy is one of a dedicated actor whose work will continue to inspire long after the credits have rolled.
Five.
Young Noble, born Rufus Lee Cooper III, who emerged as a pivotal figure in West Coast hip-hop and a defining member of Tupac Shakur's iconic group Outlawz, passed away on July 4, 2025, in Atlanta at the age of 47. His death, reported as a suicide, marks a profound loss to the community he helped shape and uplift through decades of dedication to music and message. Joining Outlawz in 1996, personally invited by Tupac during the group's formative years, Young Noble entered the global stage at a time when hip-hop was not only evolving, but becoming a potent voice for resistance, reflection, and redemption. He contributed to 4 tracks on Shakur's seminal final album, The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, including the enduring anthem Hail Mary, a collaboration that permanently cemented his name in the annals of hip-hop history. Beyond his work with Shakur, Young Noble was instrumental in maintaining the legacy of Outlawz in the decades that followed, refusing to let the mission fade after Tupac's passing. Alongside his groupmates, he continued to release music that was both introspective and defiant, staying true to the collective's roots in activism and authenticity. His solo debut, Noble Justice, 2002, and later works such as Son of God, 2012, and Third Eye View, 2019, further underscored his personal evolution, offering fans a rare glimpse into the spiritual, philosophical, and emotional depths of a man shaped by grief, loyalty, and perseverance. Friends and collaborators remembered Noble as soft-spoken yet fierce in his commitment to truth, justice, and artistic integrity. Fellow Outlawz member EDI. Mean, grieving the loss of a brother and partner of over 30 years, urged followers to check on your folks, highlighting Noble's private battle with mental health, an issue too often stigmatized within the entertainment community. In a final Instagram post dated June 22nd, Noble wrote, "You're not reading this by accident. You're going to make it." The words now echo as both a farewell and a final offering of hope, an embodiment of the duality he lived, the streetwise survivor and the spiritual seeker. Though his journey ended too soon, Young Noble's voice, vision, and values endure in the music he left behind and in the countless lives he touched. He was more than an outlaw. He was a keeper of a cultural legacy, a man who turned pain into poetry and who, even in silence, spoke volumes.
Six.
Mick Ralphs carved a distinguished place in music history as a co-founder and creative powerhouse behind 2 legendary British rock bands, Mott the Hoople and Bad Company. Celebrated for his keen songwriting instincts and signature guitar work, Ralph's career was a succession of high points that helped define the sound of 1970s rock. Ralph's early success began with Mott the Hoople, where he played a key role in shaping the band's glam rock identity. He co-wrote enduring tracks like Rock and Roll Queen and Ready for Love, the latter of which would later become a signature piece for his next major endeavor. His tenure with Mott culminated with the David Bowie-produced All the Young Dudes, a breakthrough album that brought the band international acclaim. In 1973, Ralphs co-founded Bad Company alongside Paul Rodgers, Simon Kirke, and Boz Burrell. As the first act signed to Led Zeppelin's Swan Song label, the band quickly became a global sensation. Ralph's riff-driven songwriting yielded some of the group's biggest hits: Can't Get Enough, Feel Like Making Love, Shooting Star, and Bad Company, among others. Their self-titled debut album in 1974 topped the Billboard charts and achieved multi-platinum status, cementing Ralph's position as a hitmaker. The follow-up, Straight Shooter, continued their momentum with additional chart toppers, establishing Bad Company as one of the decade's most successful rock outfits. Beyond the spotlight, Ralphs contributed to major tours, joined David Gilmour on stage in 1984, and led his own Mick Ralphs Blues Band. He also took part in several reunion tours with Bad Company and Mott the Hoople, reconnecting with fans across generations. In 2025, Ralphs saw his legacy formally recognized with Bad Company's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an honor that underscored his lasting influence on the genre. From timeless riffs to chart-topping albums, Mick Ralphs' legacy is built on musical excellence and innovation that shaped the golden age of rock.
Seven.
Kathleen Hughes, the luminous screen siren of 1950s science fiction and noir, passed away on May 19th at the age of 96. With her iconic scream immortalized in It Came from Outer Space, 1953, Hughes came to embody a generation's fascination with fear, allure, and cinematic mystery. Born Elizabeth von Gurken in Los Angeles, Hughes defied early discouragement from her uncle, screenwriter F. Hugh Herbert, who warned that at 5 feet 9 inches, she was too tall for the movies. She proved him wrong with poise and persistence, becoming a standout figure in Hollywood's post-war transition era. From early roles at Fox to her striking performances under Universal's lens, Hughes brought depth and confidence to an industry that often valued image over integrity. Her performances in The Glass Web, Three Bad Sisters, and The Golden Blade showcased not just her visual presence, but a fearless willingness to challenge the confines of supporting roles. Off-screen, her sense of humor, tinged with candor, reflected a grounded awareness of the often absurd spectacle of fame. "I was very three-dimensional in those days," she quipped of her 3D film appearances, fully aware of the irony in how her image was commercialized without consent. Despite the glitz, Hughes remained deeply human. Her 59-year marriage to producer Stanley Rubin was a partnership rooted in mutual respect. Together, they raised 4 children and stood as an enduring reminder that Hollywood's heart could still beat beyond the screen. As the film industry evolved, Hughes embraced her cult status with grace. She attended festivals, met admirers, and recalled stories with warmth. Even in her final years, her joy in sharing these memories never dimmed. Her image may have become pop art, but her spirit remained entirely her own. Kathleen Hughes leaves behind a legacy not only in celluloid, but in the enduring laughter and wonder she inspired. She was more than a scream, she was a voice.
Eight.
Gaylord Sartain, the Tulsa-born actor whose eclectic career spanned country comedy and acclaimed cinema, passed away on June 19th at age 81. Best known for his long-standing role on Hee Haw and scene-stealing turns in Mississippi Burning, The Buddy Holly Story, and the Ernest films, Sartain carved a unique niche in American screen history. Before Hollywood came calling, Sartain was a cameraman in his hometown. Yet, his imagination couldn't be confined behind the lens. As the flamboyant Dr. Mazeppa Pompazoidi on Tulsa's The Uncanny Film Festival, he first won hearts and laughs. It was this blend of absurdity and charm that would later define his national fame on Hee Haw, where he entertained audiences for nearly 2 decades. Though often cast in comic roles, such as the bumbling Chuck opposite Bill Burge's Bobby in the Ernest franchise, Sartain's depth as an actor shone in dramatic turns. His chilling performance as a racist sheriff in Mississippi, Burning revealed a gravitas that surprised many and redefined his career. "I wasn't just the funny guy anymore," he once said, reflecting on that role's turning point. Behind his expressive eyes and versatile voice was an artist's soul. A trained illustrator, Sartain designed album art for fellow Oklahoman Leon Russell and remained devoted to painting throughout his life. That visual creativity infused his acting, making every character, whether a TV cook or political advisor, feel vivid and human. To those who worked with him, Sartain was a fan first. He cherished the camaraderie of film sets and delighted in collaboration, often improvising his way to unforgettable moments. As he once shared, "The fascination wasn't just the work, it was who you got to work with." He is survived by his wife of 36 years, Mary Jo, their 3 children, granddaughter Chloe, and great-grandson Teddy. Gaylord Sartain leaves behind not just a filmography, but a legacy of warmth, wit, and authenticity, one that quietly enriched American storytelling. Jack Betts, the seasoned actor known for his roles in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, 2002, and a prolific run in spaghetti westerns under the name Hunt Powers, has died peacefully in his sleep on June 19th, 2025, at his home in Los Osos, California. He was 96. Born Jack Fillmore Betts on April 11th, 1929, in Jersey City, New Jersey, he later moved with his family to Miami, where his passion for acting began to flourish. He earned a theater degree from the University of Miami and sharpened his craft at the Actors Studio in New York, where a chance audition earned him a 3-year scholarship. The mentorship of legends like Elia Kazan opened Broadway doors, first with Richard III in 1953, and later Sweet Bird of Youth and Dracula. Betts' cinematic debut came in The Bloody Brood, 1959, followed by an impressive series of spaghetti westerns, including Sugar Colt, 1966, where he first adopted his pseudonym. On screen, he portrayed hard-edged characters, but off-screen, he was known for a quiet, thoughtful demeanor and unwavering professionalism. His Hollywood career was marked by versatility, ranging from soap operas, General Hospital, Guiding Light, to major studio films like Batman Forever, Gods and Monsters, and Office Space. In Spider-Man, his portrayal of Oscorp's Henry Balkin, who coldly dismisses Norman Osborn, became a memorable turning point in the story's narrative arc. Yet behind the industry veneer was a man who found fulfillment in the work itself. Friends recall Betts as introspective and deeply committed to the emotional truth of each role. His close bond with actress Doris Roberts was rooted not just in shared screen credits, but in a mutual love of theater and a belief in its power to heal and elevate. The Beverly Hills Playhouse, where Betts mentored young actors, paid tribute to his generosity and spirit. There was only ever one like this. He is survived by his sister Joan and nieces and nephew. In remembering Jack Betts, we see a portrait of a quiet icon, never loud, always present, who left behind not only a career of breadth, but a legacy of integrity and inspiration. Maureen Hingert, the Sri Lanka-born actress and beauty queen whose brief yet notable career spanned classic Hollywood titles like The King and I, 1956, and Gunman from Laredo, 1959, died peacefully on June 30th, 2025, at Huntington Hospital in Pasadena. She was 88. The cause was liver failure, according to her daughter, Marisa Zamparelli. Born Maureen Nelia Hingert on January 9, 1937, in Colombo, then Ceylon, she was the daughter of Lionel Hingert, president of the Bank of Ceylon, and Lorna Mabel Del Run. In 1955, at just 18, she earned international recognition as Miss Ceylon and secured the position of second runner-up at the Miss Universe pageant, a historic moment that placed her island nation on the global cultural map. That same year marked her transition to Hollywood, a leap both daring and graceful. Hingert's early roles, often uncredited but always poised, culminated in her appearance as one of the royal wives in The King and I, sharing screen space with Yul Brynner and Deborah Kerr. Soon after, under the stage name Jana Davi, she portrayed Native American women in a string of westerns, including Gun Fever and Fort Bowie. But behind the elegance of her screen image was a young woman navigating cultural dislocation, typecasting, and the gendered limits of the 1950s studio system. Her quiet withdrawal from acting by the early 1960s reflected a choice to prioritize family, a life that included marriage to designer Mario Armand Zamparelli and raising 3 daughters. Though she retired early, her presence left an imprint, most notably as a South Asian figure on Western screens at a time when representation was scarce. Her beauty, talent, and dignity offered a rare vision for audiences of the time. Maureen Hingert is survived by her daughter, Marisa. She was predeceased by daughters Gina and Andrea. Her legacy endures as a cultural bridge, one that connected tradition and modernity, East and West, beauty and resilience. Latonya Pottain, known for her appearance on season 11 of TLC's My 600-Pound Life. Life passed away on May 17, 2025, at Christus Highland Medical Center in Shreveport, Louisiana. She was 40. The Natchitoches Parish Coroner's Office listed her preliminary cause of death as acute on chronic congestive heart failure. Born and raised in northern Louisiana, Pottain's life was marked by early loss and emotional hardship. At just 12, she lost her mother, and soon after, her father left the family. Forced to mature quickly, she moved into her own home by 15, navigating adolescence largely on her own. Food, she later shared, became a source of emotional refuge, a coping mechanism that followed her into adulthood. When she joined My 600-Pound Life, Pottain weighed 531 pounds and dreamed of regaining her health to walk down the aisle with her fiancé, Don. Her vulnerability on the show resonated with many as she openly discussed the mental and physical burdens of obesity. She worked hard to reduce her weight, but after the show aired, she experienced a wave of public backlash that deepened her depression and halted her progress. In 2023, she sought a fresh start in Houston, only to find herself in an abusive relationship while also coping with her father's cancer diagnosis. Isolated and facing deteriorating health, Pottain returned to Louisiana, where she became bedridden by mid-2024. Despite her declining condition, she expressed a strong will to live, launching a fundraiser for medical transport and care. "This has been an incredibly difficult journey," she wrote, "but I want to fight for my health and my life. Beyond her personal struggles, Pottain was passionate about mentoring young women facing adversity. She dreamed of opening a group home for girls like herself, those growing up without guidance or support. Latonya Pottain's life, though filled with hardship, was defined by perseverance and quiet advocacy. She leaves behind a legacy of courage, honesty, and a heartfelt desire to lift others even while she struggled to stay standing herself. Joanna Bacon, the British actress whose memorable performance as Natalie's mother in Love, Actually, 2003, captured hearts worldwide, passed away on June 14, 2025, after a short and brave battle with cancer. She was 72. The Harlow Theatre Company, where Bacon was a founding member, confirmed her passing and held a memorial service on July 15th. Born with an instinctive flair for performance, Bacon entered acting professionally after leaving a publishing career, a bold transition that began with her breakout role in Steaming at the Duke's Theatre in Lancaster. Over 4 decades, she graced stages across the UK, including the National Theatre, Hampstead Theatre, and Sheffield Crucible, inhabiting roles with humor, grit, and precision. At Harlow, she portrayed iconic characters such as Portia in The Merchant of Venice and Beverly in Abigail's Party, leaving a lasting imprint on local theater. Bacon made her screen debut in the early 1990s, amassing 49 film and television credits over 3 decades. She was best known to international audiences for her warm and humorous role in Love, Actually, where she shared a pivotal scene with Hugh Grant and Martine McCutcheon. More recently, she won praise for her turn as Jackie in 4 seasons of FX's Breeders, where her mix of dry wit and emotional nuance made her a standout. Diagnosed with cancer in late 2024, Bacon faced her illness with clarity and gratitude. "I have been so lucky to do the things I have done and to have met the wonderful people I have met," she shared with her friends. "I have no regrets." A passionate advocate for the arts, Bacon continued attending performances at Harlow Theatre until the final months of her life, offering encouragement to younger generations. "She never forgot to praise our work," the company wrote. "She watched with a critical eye, always from the front row." Joanna Bacon is remembered not only for her talent, but for her kindness, her laughter, and her lifelong devotion to the stage. She leaves behind a legacy rich in character, both on and off screen. Annet McCroskey, a respected talent manager, producer, and CEO of artistic endeavors who dedicated her life to championing emerging voices in entertainment, passed away on July 11, 2025, in Los Angeles following a sudden medical emergency. She was 51. A native of Germany who later made California her home, McCroskey's journey into the entertainment industry was fueled by a deep commitment to storytelling and mentorship. Her early years were spent at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute, where she began guiding young talent as assistant director of its Young People's program. That passion would evolve into a lifelong vocation. In 2004, she founded Little Stars Management, which transformed into Artistic Endeavors in 2007. As CEO, she nurtured dozens of young actors, guiding them from their first auditions to major roles across television and film. Her eye for potential and her unwavering support were defining traits. Annet spent her life pouring her endless energy into others, her family wrote. She leaves behind a legacy of love, generosity, and unshakable faith in people's potential. McCroskey's impact extended beyond her clients. She was a two-term president of the Talent Managers Association and received the Heller Award for Manager of the Year in 2013. She also contributed her leadership to organizations like the Sundance Institute, Women in Film, Film Independent, and SAG's Looking Ahead program. As a producer, McCroskey was behind the 2018 film Locating Silver Lake and partnered with Rise Flicks to champion independent cinema. Her work often reflected her advocacy for indigenous LGBTQ+, women's and children's rights. Privately, she was a devoted wife, mother, and lover of animals, survived by her husband Aaron, their sons Angelo and Aiden, and her Arabian horse, Luna. A celebration of her life will be held on July 24th in Los Angeles. In a field that often prizes profit over principle, Annet McCroskey stood apart, a builder of dreams, a guide through uncertainty, and a radiant force for good. Breaking news. Today, we unveil the astonishing journey of a man who transformed his health struggles into a platform of triumph and built an empire through humor, grit, and unwavering vision. From a childhood buried in coal-dusted towns to commanding television screens and philanthropic boards, Steve Harvey is not merely a comedian, he is a movement. Curious about the secret behind his enduring vitality and prolific career? Let us dive into the riveting odyssey of resilience and ambition. Steve Harvey was born on January 17, 1957, in the coal mining town of Welch, West Virginia, where life was as dense and unforgiving as the black dust that clung to windowsills. His early years were spent in a modest two-room home, where warmth came from coal stoves and love was measured in resilience. His father, Jesse Harvey, was a coal miner by day and a Sunday school teacher by night, a man who showed that faith and hard work could coexist. His mother Eloise was the backbone of the family, turning garden scraps into nourishing meals and shaping her children's character through discipline, scripture, and unwavering pride. At the age of 5, Steve's family relocated to Cleveland, Ohio, in pursuit of cleaner air and better prospects. The neighborhood on East 112th Street presented its own challenges. Gritty urban life filled with noise, neon barbershop lights, and cultural vibrancy. Sharing a small space with his siblings, Steve found solace and identity in humor. He swept barbershop floors and hauled groceries for tips, learning quickly that a well-timed joke or a clever grin could earn him both money and approval. It was in Cleveland's streets and crowded homes that Steve first encountered the rich, rhythmic language of everyday people. His participation in the neighborhood dozens contests, fast-paced battles of wit, honed his comedic instincts. These early experiences with hardship, hustle, and humor formed the roots of a performance style grounded in authenticity and resilience. For Steve Harvey, laughter was never just about amusement. It was survival, connection, and a dream of something more. During his high school years, Steve Harvey encountered a challenge that felt more daunting than poverty or prejudice. A persistent, crippling stutter that choked his voice and dimmed his confidence. Every classroom presentation felt like walking barefoot across frozen pavement. Each syllable was a struggle, a minefield of hesitation. He avoided reading aloud, buried his humor beneath silence, and feared that his dreams of performing would remain locked behind trembling lips. Then came Mrs. McMahon, his perceptive and patient English teacher, who saw past his speech impediment to the expressive young man beneath. She insisted he begin reciting poetry aloud every day, choosing the work of Langston Hughes for its rhythmic beauty and emotional pulse. Each afternoon, as Steve walked the long route home, he recited verses aloud, matching his breath to his footsteps, discovering a cadence, a control, a kind of musicality in speech that had always eluded him. The stutter didn't vanish overnight, but something clicked. A pathway opened. That breakthrough arrived at a school talent show. With trembling hands, but rehearsed conviction, Steve stepped on stage and performed a comedy monologue, not a stutter in sight. The crowd erupted. The applause wasn't just affirmation, it was liberation. That night, he realized that laughter could become his voice, his armor, his truth. Back home, the Harvey household turned into an impromptu school of timing and toughness. Evenings on the porch with his father Jesse became master classes in storytelling. Jesse, a man who survived the mines, with humor as his only weapon, shared tales laced with pauses and punchlines, teaching his son that well-placed silence could be as powerful as a joke. From that point forward, Steve believed something fundamental. If he could make a tired neighbor laugh, he could outlast despair. And if he could control his breath, he could command the stage. Adulthood for Steve Harvey did not begin with red carpets or studio contracts. It began with labor, the kind that leaves your hands calloused and your pride threadbare. He stocked shelves at local stores, scrubbed floors in quiet office buildings long after midnight, and pounded pavement as a door-to-door insurance salesman, braving Cleveland's bitter winds and harder rejections. Every job, no matter how mundane or grueling, became a spark for observation, a sketch waiting to be told on stage. Though he briefly enrolled at Kent State University, bills loomed larger than lectures, and rent forced him to pivot before degrees could be framed. But the dream stayed lit. In 1985, Steve took a dare. Armed with only 5 minutes of jokes and a heart full of hope, he stepped onto the stage at Hilarity's Comedy Club in Cleveland. His set, riffing on broke men flaunting fake prosperity, struck gold. The crowd roared, and Steve, until then a man selling other people's stories, knew he had finally found the platform for his own. That very night, he made a vow. He would chase this path, however uncertain. The next morning, he resigned from sales, packed his routines into a dented Ford, and hit the open mic circuit across the Midwest. What followed was a pilgrimage of sacrifice and endurance. He slept in parking lots, washed in gas station bathrooms, and lived on little more than faith and funny bones. But every stage, no matter how small, brought him closer to his calling. The real break arrived in 1990 when he earned a spot in the prestigious Johnny Walker National Comedy Search. That visibility caught the attention of HBO producers, who invited him onto their Fresh Faces Comedy Jam in 1991. One broadcast changed everything. What began as a grind in empty bars became sold-out weekends in major cities. And the man who once performed for gas money now commanded standing ovations in theaters from Detroit to Dallas. Steve Harvey had arrived, and he was just getting started. In 1993, Steve Harvey stepped onto the legendary stage of the Apollo Theater in Harlem, a venue where talent was tested and pretenders were loudly dismissed. It was a defining moment. With one hand clasped behind his back like a preacher pacing a pulpit, and the other slicing through the air to land punchlines, Steve took command. Instead of boos, he earned reverberating laughter. The Apollo crowd, famous for its brutal honesty, embraced him. Each week, he returned as host, transforming a daunting platform into his comedic playground. That smooth charisma, rooted in Southern storytelling and street wisdom, caught the eyes of television producers. Just 3 years later, in 1996, Steve made a leap into scripted television. The WB network launched The Steve Harvey Show, casting him as Steve Hightower, a former funk musician turned high school music teacher. Paired with fellow comedian Cedric the Entertainer, the show struck a chord with audiences. Their chemistry was effortless, their banter timeless. Beyond the laughs, the sitcom delivered real heart, tackling themes of mentorship, aspiration, and community pride. It resonated deeply, especially with black families who saw themselves reflected on screen in multi-dimensional ways. Over its 6-season run, the series earned 4 NAACP Image Awards and further cemented Steve's place in mainstream entertainment. But perhaps nothing elevated his cultural stature more than the Kings of Comedy tour in 1997. Alongside Cedric the Entertainer, Bernie Mac, and D.L. Hewley, Steve helped ignite a comedy phenomenon. The tour swept across the United States, selling out arenas and grossing over $37 million. It was more than a series of shows, it was a celebration of black humor, perspective, and identity on a scale rarely seen before. When Spike Lee captured the tour for his 2000 concert film, The Original Kings of Comedy, the world saw what theater audiences already knew. These were not just comedians, they were cultural voices. Steve's role as the tour's closer was iconic. He didn't just tell jokes, he built narratives, arced emotions, and brought rooms from laughter to near tears, and back again. His sets were part sermon, part stand-up, each one a masterclass in pacing, rhythm, and heart. From Harlem's spotlight to America's living rooms, Steve Harvey was no longer just a comic. He was a star. By the dawn of the new millennium, Steve Harvey had already built a name for himself in stand-up and television. But what followed next would prove that his reach was not confined to punchlines alone. In 2000, he took to the airwaves with the Steve Harvey Morning Show, blending a unique formula of humor, daily devotionals, and raw relationship advice. This was not just another radio segment, it was a ritual for millions. With a voice that could pivot from thunderous laughter to thoughtful reflection, Steve became the voice of morning America, especially for black listeners navigating life's challenges on the road to work. The show quickly ballooned to 8 million daily listeners and earned its status as a commuter staple. The momentum continued to build. In 2009, Steve released a book that would redefine his public identity. Act like a lady, think like a man. With signature blunt honesty and humor, he offered relationship insights that sparked nationwide debate. Critics questioned his credentials, but audiences embraced him. The book sat atop bestseller lists for over 64 weeks and inspired 2 blockbuster films, Think Like a Man, 2012, and Think Like a Man 2, 2014. Steve was no longer just a comedian. He was now a cultural voice of guidance and introspection. In 2010, Steve assumed the reins of Family Feud, one of television's most enduring game shows. Under his stewardship, the show transformed into appointment viewing. His quick wit, expressive reactions, and ability to turn awkward answers into viral moments reignited the franchise. Ratings soared by 40% in his first year, drawing younger, more diverse viewers. Clips of his stunned facial expressions and impromptu rants became internet gold, propelling him into meme stardom and earning him multiple Daytime Emmy nominations. 2 years later, in 2012, he brought that same blend of heart and humor to daytime television with Steve, his self-titled talk show. Over 5 seasons, viewers watched Steve moderate emotional family reunions, mentor aspiring entrepreneurs, and tackle everyday dilemmas with signature charm and candor. The show was a space for laughter and healing, where Steve's past struggles and triumphs colored every segment. Whether offering tough love or celebrating a surprise proposal, he connected deeply and authentically. By now, Steve Harvey was more than a name. He was a brand, synonymous with inspiration, transformation, and unwavering hustle. Steve Harvey's meteoric rise in entertainment did not come without a physical and emotional price. By the mid-2000s, at the peak of his multi-platform hustle, Steve was carrying a weight of 265 pounds on his 5'11" frame, juggling the demands of early morning radio, daytime television, and national comedy tours. His schedule was relentless, 3-hour broadcasts followed by red-eye flights and little sleep in between. But in 2007, during a performance in Memphis, his body issued a warning he could not ignore. After hours of bright stage lights, little hydration, and mounting pressure, he stumbled off stage in a haze. Paramedics later diagnosed him with severe dehydration and dangerously high blood pressure. Instead of hiding this health scare, Steve turned it into a moment of teaching. On his radio show, he recounted the experience with trademark humor, saying, "There ain't no joke funnier than your heart saying, 'Sit down.'" But behind the laughter was a sobering commitment to change. He began a dramatic lifestyle shift, losing over 30 pounds, replacing fried food with plant-based meals, and embracing a daily walking routine that began before sunrise in New York's Central Park. Steve's transformation extended beyond the physical. He began scheduling annual health screenings and publicly broadcast his own colonoscopy experience to demystify preventive care for African American men, a demographic historically underserved in medical outreach. He also adopted daily steaming treatments to protect his vocal cords, critical for his speaking-intensive career. Meditation, gratitude journaling, and strict no-phone Sundays became part of his emotional toolkit. For Steve, wellness became more than survival. It was about thriving with purpose, energy, and clarity. His message was clear: success is meaningless without the strength to sustain it. Yet, even as his star ascended, Steve's personal life was marked by deep and devastating losses. In 1997, the woman who had been his moral compass, his mother Eloise, passed away following complications from a stroke. It was a blow that landed hard, even as the Steve Harvey Show was hitting its stride. Steve taped that week's episode, hiding swollen eyes behind tinted lenses, then stood in front of a congregation and delivered a eulogy woven with hymns, scripture, and humor. He didn't cry on stage, but the heartbreak ran deep. 3 years later, his father Jesse, his childhood hero, the man who taught him storytelling by candlelight and humor in hardship, also passed. These back-to-back losses left Steve grasping for meaning, leaning heavily on prayer and the very lessons his parents had embedded in him. Keep working, keep believing, keep going. The pain continued. In 2008, the death of Bernie Mac, his fellow king of comedy and comedic blood brother, left Steve gutted. He collapsed backstage in Jacksonville upon hearing the news. 2 shows were canceled. When he returned, his tribute set was more prayer than performance, a moment where tears stood beside punchlines on stage. But grief was not his only burden. Steve also endured 2 divorces, including a public custody battle and a lawsuit worth $60 million from his second ex-wife. The headlines were unrelenting, questioning everything from his character to his finances. And then came the 2015 Miss Universe pageant, a globally televised mistake in which he accidentally announced the wrong winner. Critics had a field day, but Steve took the bullet, returned to the stage, corrected the error live, and apologized with grace. The moment, humiliating as it was, became a defining chapter in his resilience playbook. As he often tells his audience now, your worst flop can fertilize your biggest bloom. That mantra, forged in failure and loss, underscores Steve's journey not as a tale of constant triumph, but one of rebirth through vulnerability. Steve Harvey's career has long outgrown the bounds of television and comedy. Today, he stands not only as a household name in entertainment, but also as an entrepreneurial powerhouse and global philanthropist. His business empire, Harvey Ventures, spans industries from tech and fashion to media and finance, each venture grounded in the same ethos that built his career: service, strategy, and storytelling. One of his boldest moves came with the creation of Vault 88 Studios, a 200-acre production campus outfitted with the latest in virtual production and motion capture technology. Nestled in Atlanta's growing media corridor, the facility rivals some of Hollywood's most advanced lots. But it is not just about production, it is about ownership. By building from the ground up, Steve transitioned from being talent to becoming an infrastructure owner, a visionary shift that secures long-term influence for generations of creatives, especially those from underrepresented communities. Steve also co-founded Laugh Pay, a groundbreaking microloan platform designed for gig workers, stand-up comedians, hairstylists, content creators, individuals whose careers often fall outside the reach of traditional banking institutions. The platform's pilot phase saw a 93% repayment rate, prompting banks to pledge over $40 million for expansion. This venture alone reflects Steve's belief in accessible capital as a tool for empowerment and self-sufficiency. In fashion, Steve has parlayed his signature tailored look into a thriving brand. His bespoke menswear line, launched quietly via Instagram, sold over 150,000 units in its first quarter. The brand uses an AI-powered mobile fitting app that scans a customer's measurements, ensuring a perfect fit without stepping into a store, a modern evolution of style rooted in tradition. But perhaps his most forward-thinking venture is Inspire You, an educational tech platform that uses animated avatars, modeled after Steve's own expressions, to teach public speaking fundamentals. The app, downloaded over 3 million times worldwide, has found a particularly strong user base in Brazil and Nigeria, where students use it to build confidence in English communication. The profits are reinvested into broadband infrastructure for underserved rural communities, furthering Harvey's mission of equitable access to opportunity. At the 2024 United Nations Summit on Youth Employment, Steve unveiled his most ambitious global initiative yet, Laughter to Livelihoods. The $25 million fund provides micro-enterprise grants to young entrepreneurs across sub-Saharan Africa and the Caribbean. Within the first year, more than 4,000 businesses were launched. Cafes, content studios, small manufacturing shops, and their journeys are documented in Grind and Giggle, Steve's weekly YouTube series. Blending humor with mentorship, each episode showcases not just entrepreneurial triumphs, but the real economic ripple effects of empowerment. By partnering with schools to include the Lighthouse Entrepreneur Training module in middle school curricula, Steve is embedding the seeds of business acumen early in life. Even with such a wide professional footprint, Steve Harvey remains most devoted to mentoring the next generation. The Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation has become a national model for legacy-building philanthropy. Through annual mentoring camps, college scholarships, and career development programs, the foundation focuses particularly on fatherless youth, a mission close to Steve's heart. Steve personally interviews every scholarship finalist in marathon Zoom sessions, part coaching, part comedy, and part leadership drill. He does not shy away from tough questions, often pivoting between jokes about ramen noodles and deep conversations about ethics and resilience. These sessions have become a rite of passage for his mentees, offering direct access to a man whose own journey began in poverty and adversity. In 2024, Steve expanded the mentorship model through the Funny Bone Fellowship, a cutting-edge program combining students from historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, in computer science with veteran sitcom writers. The goal: develop AI that understands comedic timing. In early beta tests at Atlanta comedy clubs, routines that incorporated the AI's rhythm suggestions received a 17% increase in audience applause. This unique fusion of technology and storytelling is Harvey's vision for comedy's future, amplified by algorithms, but still rooted in soul. Steve also believes that humor can drive civic change. He founded Humor for the Hill, an initiative that embeds emerging comedians inside congressional offices. Their mission: translate complex policies into digestible, engaging sketch videos released across nonpartisan platforms. Pilot episodes on student loan reform and veteran healthcare reached tens of millions of views and spurred noticeable increases in constituent communication. Steve personally chairs weekly, virtual critiques of each sketch, demanding factual accuracy and story clarity before greenlighting any jokes. All of these projects reflect one unifying principle. Steve Harvey sees entertainment as a form of public service. His stage is not just a platform, it is a pulpit, a classroom, and a call to action. By leveraging every facet of his fame, from his radio voice to his tailored suits, he is building a legacy far greater than television ratings. He is crafting a blueprint for how entertainers can become architects of social change. Inside his Atlanta compound, part home, part hub of mentorship, Steve Harvey lives a daily rhythm of reflection, discipline, and legacy. At 68, he is not slowing down. Instead, he is recalibrating for longevity. The mornings start before dawn with a ritual blend of movement and mindfulness. Gratitude journaling, prayerful affirmations, a green smoothie laced with turmeric and collagen, and sweat-breaking sessions on a Peloton bike. On alternating days, he plunges into hot-cold hydrotherapy, a regimen fine-tuned by a sleep coach and monitored by biometric trackers that beep hourly reminders to stretch, breathe, and hydrate. In this space, even wellness is an act of intention. At the heart of it all is family. Steve and his wife, Marjorie, have created something unique with their grandchildren: Legacy Fridays. These evenings are sacred, unplugged from screens and buzzing schedules. Grandkids circle the same creaky porch swing where Steve once listened to his father's coal mine stories. Now, it is their turn. Each child is tasked with sharing one joke and one life lesson. Around this ritual, Steve weaves humor and wisdom into a single thread, teaching that joy and integrity are inherited values, passed down like family recipes. Every Sunday, Steve opens that circle to the world. He live streams a short devotional to over 60 million followers, offering scriptural insights fused with personal anecdotes. One part church, one part stand-up, all heart. The messages resonate deeply, especially among communities that see in Steve not just a celebrity, but a leader grounded in faith, family, and responsibility. And yet he is far from done. Steve is currently preparing for his next stage, literally and metaphorically. His memoir play, Still Laughing, is bound for Broadway. A fusion of live storytelling, archival footage, and interactive audience segments, the production captures the peaks and valleys of a life that began in coal country and climbed to global prominence. Simultaneously, he is drafting a multi-volume book series, Laugh Lines and Lifelines, an elegant blend of autobiography and practical guide on using humor as a life skill. Each chapter dissects the anatomy of a joke and then pivots into real-world applications. How a pause can diffuse an argument, how vulnerability wins boardrooms, how self-deprecation builds rapport. But even in the quiet hours, alone in his cedar-paneled study, surrounded by photographs of his parents, Bernie Mac, and his protégés, Steve is planning. Not for applause, for impact. Steve Harvey's journey is not just an ascent, it is a reinvention story powered by service. He is the coal miner's son who learned to turn hunger into humor, who found clarity in cadence, who embraced stumbles as stages for transformation. His voice, once muffled by a childhood stutter, has become one of the most recognizable and influential in modern entertainment. But more importantly, it is a voice that resonates because it tells the truth, because it invites others to rise with it. He is not merely the host of Family Feud, not just the businessman behind hundreds of millions in enterprise. He is a master of platforms, whether radio mics, courtroom sets, Broadway stages, or youth camps. And he uses each one with the same conviction: to mentor, to motivate, to make meaning. Few public figures embody both showmanship and stewardship so fully. Harvey's life illustrates that it is not fame that defines legacy, but what you do with it. Whether guiding an overlooked student in a Zoom scholarship interview, empowering a young entrepreneur in Nairobi, or comforting a mother who lost her child to injustice, Steve Harvey does not just entertain, he uplifts. His story proves that comedy can be more than laughter. It can be light, a spotlight that reveals resilience, a beacon that says, even if you come from coal dust, you can still breathe brilliance into the world. And that's the power of Steve Harvey. Not just the man who made millions laugh, but the man who taught millions how to rise.